Morning breaks on the first day of a new year, 56 AR. As the light filters through their windows, each member of the group discovers a mysterious box waiting in their rooms. Inside, they find gifted magical items, the origin of which remains unclear. Talek, curious about his gift, examines it closely on his way to the broken keg. The object is a technomantic cube, a fascinating device that, when placed on the ground, unfolds into an extra-dimensional storage space. Intrigued but cautious, Talek places the mysterious mirrored necklace inside the cube for safekeeping. At the keg, the group begins to gather, recovering from the indulgence of the Hellwinter feast. Saladin is the last to arrive, coming down the stairs with Mo in tow. Mo, visibly flustered, mumbles something about being late for patrol and hurriedly makes his exit. The group greets Saladin with good-natured teasing, poking fun at his night with Mo. Darvoth, ever attentive, delivers their usual breakfast order while they banter about various topics, crafting knuckle dusters for Saladin's next fight, experimenting with the best blend for Molotov cocktails, and other half-serious ideas. Theodore, however, seems preoccupied. He shares that he's had another dream, though this one feels different. In it, there were 3 voices. One he recognizes as Thurnos, but the other 2 are unfamiliar. One of the unknown voices clearly harbors a deep hatred for the Alchemist, branding him a liar and expressing a desire to see him dead. With this ominous dream fresh in their minds, the group finishes their breakfast and sets out from the broken keg. They head northeast, along the city's inner ring, moving toward the Alchemist's shop, located near the edge of the Mystic Quarter. As they approach their destination, they spot a weathered wooden sign hanging over the door. It reads "The Belly of the Beast," and features a painted image of a manta ray with a snow globe city perched on its back. The shop, like its sign, exudes an air of mystery, promising answers, or perhaps more questions. Saladin pushes open the door to the Belly of the Beast, stepping into the dimly lit shop first. Theodore follows closely behind, but the moment he crosses the threshold, the doorframe bursts to life, blazing with white-hot runes. A pulse of magic halts Theodore in his tracks, holding him frozen in place. From behind the counter, a frail, elderly man, small and hunched, looking every bit of 90 years old, reacts with surprising speed. With trembling hands, he raises a large, intricate firearm, its glowing runes and twisted metal gleaming in the dim light. The weapon is pointed squarely at Theodore. "You're one of his," the old man stammers, his voice high-pitched and frantic. "You've come to kill me, haven't you?" His words tumble out in a stutter, equal parts paranoia and panic. Saladin immediately raises his hands in a placating gesture. Whoa, no one's here to kill anyone. We don't even know who he is." The old man doesn't lower the weapon, one of his. "Can't say who. Won't say who. The runes. They don't lie. They went off, so you must know who he is." His eyes dart between Theodore and the rest of the group, wild with fear. From the doorway, Zethian leans in, his voice calm and measured. "Look, old man, we're not here to cause trouble. No one's here to hurt you. We just want to buy some supplies and be on our way." It takes several tense moments of negotiation, but the group eventually convinces the old man to let them prove they mean no harm. He reluctantly allows Saladin to carry Theodore outside, where the rune's hold finally releases. Theodore, shaken but unharmed, stays outside with Zethian while Saladin and Talek cautiously re-enter the shop. Talek wastes no time, immediately addressing the alchemist. "Do you know where we can get brimstone?" The old man eyes him warily, but answers, "Brimstone's easy to get, but not cheap. What do you need it for?" Saladin steps in to explain, "I'm a fighter. I thought it might give me an edge in the arena." The alchemist shakes his head, muttering, No. Brimstone's not in that chem sludge they're all using now. That's a different mess." Saladin clarifies, "I don't want it for myself. I want to enhance my weapon." The old man pauses, his expression shifting from suspicion to curiosity. "Ah, I see. Demon guns like this one?" He holds up the firearm he had aimed earlier. "Trouble, all of them, always talking, blah blah blah, hassle." Talek, undeterred, presses further. "What about bigger demon guns? Something that makes big explosions?" The alchemist squints at him, confused. "You mean like the cannons on the city walls? I built those, you know. 12-foot demon cannons." Absolute pains in the ass. Talek redirects. "Not cannons. I mean big explosions, but portable. Something small, The old man shakes his head emphatically. No, not cost-efficient. Too much enchantment. Shrinking, enlarging, stabilizing, it would be a nightmare. But, Talek persists, could you envision it if money wasn't an issue? The alchemist snorts. Of course I can envision it, I just did. But the cost would be astronomical. You'd need brimstone, alchemist's fire, 4 or 5 other magical compounds. Miniaturization spells, layered enlargement spells, it'd be an insane project. Talek leans in, his curiosity growing. Do you know anyone who could make something like that? The alchemist smirks faintly, the first hint of pride cutting through his paranoia. It would take a genius. Someone like me, naturally, maybe 1 or 2 of my students. But even then, it'd be a hell of a challenge. Talek nods, the wheels in his mind already turning as the conversation continues. The alchemist peers at Talek, his eyes narrowing. How much brimstone are you looking for? He asks cautiously. Talek replies, around 2 pounds. The old man scratches his chin thoughtfully. I can do that, untraceable, of course, 300 platinum. The price stuns the group, their surprise evident. Saladin lets out a low whistle, and Talek raises an eyebrow. Why so expensive? Talek asks. The alchemist shrugs, his tone matter-of-fact. Making it untraceable is the costly part. Over the counter, it'd run you about 1/3 of that. But if you don't want someone following the trail back to you, you pay the premium. His demeanor shifts suddenly, and his eyes dart around the room. Wait. You're not with the guard, are you? This isn't some kind of trap? His hand inches toward the weapon on the counter. Saladin steps forward, holding up his hands defensively. A trap? Do I look smart enough to set up a trap like that? The old man hesitates, glancing at Saladin and seeming to decide he's telling the truth. He lowers his hand but doesn't entirely relax. Talek takes the opportunity to press further. What about a throne of bone? Do you know anything about that? At the mention of the throne, the alchemist freezes. His face drains of color and his eyes widen in pure terror. Without a word, he grabs his gun again and backs away, inching toward the doorway that leads to the rear of the shop. What did you say? He stammers, his voice barely above a whisper. The throne of bone. It's not over. He said it was over, but I knew he was lying. The cult is back. Saladin tries to calm him, offering his flask. Hey, take a sip of this. You're working yourself up too much. The old man ignores him entirely, fumbling beneath the counter and pulling out a powdered substance that he clutches like a lifeline. His muttering grows more frantic. The cult is moving again. He said it was done. He said it was over. He lied. I knew it. Who is he? Saladin presses, his tone gentle but firm. The old man recoils as if struck. I can't say his name. He'll know. His paranoia is palpable, his eyes darting around as though expecting someone to burst through the door at any moment. The group exchanges glances, and Zethian steps forward, speaking carefully. You don't have to say it. Write it down, just part of it even. The alchemist hesitates, then shakily grabs a piece of parchment. His hand trembles as he begins to write. H-U-R-N, Thurnos, Saladin interrupts, pulling the mysterious grenade from his bag. You mean the guy who makes these? The reaction is immediate. The old man's face contorts in fear and rage. Get that out of here, he bellows, his voice cracking. Saladin doesn't argue. He quickly steps to the door, leaning out to where Theodore and Zethian are waiting. Hold this, please, he says, passing the grenade to Theodore without further explanation. Then, turning back, he re-enters the shop, leaving the alchemist still shaking behind the counter. Talek turns to the alchemist, trying to pivot the conversation. Could you build the weapon we were talking about earlier? He asks, his voice calm and measured. The old man furrows his brow, a whirlwind of emotions crossing his face. I could do it, he mutters, mostly to himself. Yes, I could, but I won't, can't. Shouldn't extraplanar forces and all that. Bad experiences. Very nasty bad things. I don't do that anymore. Talek nods. Careful not to push too hard. All right. What about the brimstone? Is there anything we could do for you, maybe? Like tracking down this cult you're so worried about? The alchemist's expression twists into suspicion, his eyes darting from Talek to Saladin. You're traveling with one of them. You clearly know where they are, he accuses, pointing a trembling finger at Saladin. What, me? Saladin asks, clearly baffled. The old man's voice rises in panic. He's one of them. Do you even know? They want me dead. If you don't know, then he's deceiving you. He's deceiving all of you, Saladin frowns. I think, evidently not. The alchemist doesn't relent, his paranoia spiraling further. He's clearly deceived you. It's the only logical option. He'll betray you, you know. A liar, a murderer, he'll stab you in the back. Talek raises a hand to calm the situation. I won't turn my back on him, okay? The old man laughs bitterly. He'll stab you in the front of the back, too. As his laughter subsides, he takes a deep, shuddering breath, trying to stave off a full-blown panic attack. Talek sees the opportunity and pulls a folded piece of paper from his pocket. Do you know anything about this? He asks, unfolding the drawing of the rune. The moment the alchemist's eyes land on the rune, he recoils in horror. His gun slips from his hand, clattering to the floor. Without another word, he leaps back, disappearing through the door to the rear of the shop. The door slams shut behind him, followed by the loud, deliberate clicks of multiple locks. Outside, Zethian and Theodore jump as the front door to the shop vanishes entirely, leaving only a blank wall in its place. Saladin picks up the fallen weapon, studying it. It's not a normal gun, but a bizarre amalgamation of black powder firearms, magically grafted together into one monstrous pistol. "We just want to talk," he shouts. The door cracks open just enough for a single finger to poke through. A moment later, a faint shimmer of magic fills the air. From the front of the shop, a younger, healthier-looking version of the alchemist steps into view. "Greetings," the figure says, his voice cheerful but hollow. "Hi, hello, I am Edgar's simulacrum." He conjures me from time to time to answer questions he finds uncomfortable. "You may ask me 5 questions. Then, for the sake of my creator's sanity and my own, I will cease to exist." Talek and Saladin exchange confused glances, but Talek steps forward hesitantly. "All right, first question. What are these runes?" He holds up the drawing. The simulacrum's eye twitches slightly. "Ah, I see why I'm here now. That is the rune of the Dead Roads, one of the primary symbols of the cult of..." His voice devolves into garbled nonsense, as though the words themselves were erased from reality. Talek and Saladin share another bewildered look before Talek presses on. "Okay, second question. What do you know about the Throne of Bone?" The simulacrum sighs, his shoulders slumping. The throne is one of the central symbols of the cult. It is said to be a conduit to deeper understanding of the unknowable. His voice falters again, the same alien distortion cutting off his words. A thin trickle of blood runs from his nose as he finishes speaking. Saladin steps forward, waving a hand in the air. "All right, question 3. What else do you know about the cult of, He stumbles over the otherworldly gibberish, his attempt at imitation a complete failure. "E grable gribble screech bonk?" The simulacrum blinks, looking genuinely confused. "I'm sorry, I don't know anything about anyone or anything by that name," Talek groans. "Wasted question. Fine. Question 4. Is the cult linked to the Eternal Nothing?" "Yes, and no," the simulacrum replies. Many years ago, the cult's master attempted to use the Nothing as a circle to summon a great power. When that failed, they tried to use the entire city of Titan, and failed again. Saladin whistles softly. "That's big." "All right, last question. If the Nothing in the city didn't work, what would you use to summon this thing?" The simulacrum's face contorts in pain, blood now pouring from his nose as his eye twitches violently. "I would do no such thing, of course," he insists. "But theoretically, the only thing large enough to contain such power would be a circle the size of Olindar itself." As he finishes, his body spasms uncontrollably. With a sickening pop, the simulacrum collapses in on itself, vanishing into thin air. The backroom door cracks open and Edgar's voice booms from within. "That's it. I'm done. Get out, and don't come back with that cultist spy friend of yours." The group has little choice but to leave. As the front door closes behind them, it vanishes once more, leaving them standing outside next to a blank wall. Departing the alchemist's shop, Saladin and Talek quickly catch up Zethian and Theodore, recounting the alchemist's cryptic warnings and the startling revelations about the cult's history. As the group makes their way through the bustling streets of Titan, they agree to seek an audience with Lady Seraphina at the Halls of Justice, hoping her resources might provide further clarity. Upon arrival at the imposing structure, the group approaches the reception desk and requests to meet with Lady Seraphina. They are instructed to wait and directed to a row of austere benches lining the entrance hall. Time drags on, with over half an hour passing as Saladin grows increasingly restless, tapping his foot and fidgeting. Finally, a young cleric clad in the golden-trimmed robes of Silior approaches. Introducing himself as one of Lady Seraphina's aides, he leads the group to a modest side room, ensuring privacy. Once seated, the aide explains that Lady Seraphina is currently occupied, but was informed they had important information to share. Saladin cuts straight to the point. Is she at another murder scene? The aide's brow furrows. Yes, she's investigating to determine if it's connected to the ongoing case. Saladin leans forward, his tone sharp. The victim, are they an alchemist? The question visibly confuses the aide. No, he replies. The victim was not an alchemist. Why would you ask that? Brushing off the aide's confusion, the group begins to recount what they've learned. The connections to Thurnos Upton, the cult symbols, and the eerie links to past events in Titan. As the conversation grows more detailed, the aide's expression shifts from confusion to clear unease. Forgive me, he says eventually, but I think this may be beyond me. If you'll wait a moment, I'll fetch someone more knowledgeable, a historian who might better understand these events. He returns shortly with an older elven cleric, her bearing calm and deliberate. The elder cleric listens intently as the group recounts their findings. When they finish, she nods, her gaze sharpening. The events you describe happened nearly 39 years ago, she begins. A cult arose in Titan, led by a charismatic figure, Thurnos Upton. He was once a celebrated hero of the city before his descent into darkness. After the cult's rise and subsequent defeat, Upton disappeared without a trace. Talek leans forward urgently. We met him, Thurnos, just earlier today. The elder cleric's expression falters. That is impossible. Thurnos vanished decades ago. Talek retrieves the card with Thurnos' address from his pocket, but when he looks at it, the once clear script has faded to nothing, leaving a blank piece of parchment. Stunned, the group gives the address from memory, but the cleric's records show only an empty plot of land at that location. The elder cleric continues, undeterred. 2 of Thurnos' former allies from those days still reside within the city. One of them, Edgar Gilou, you've already met. She pauses. The other is Alexander Ironheart, a dragonborn fighter. Zethian's ears perk up at the name. Alexander Ironheart. He narrows his eyes in thought. I've heard that name mentioned before, in connection with Allura. Remembering more, he gently pokes Brimstone, who has been dozing on his shoulder. Brimstone sleeping, the small demon growls. What want? Do you know Alexander Ironheart? Zethian asks. A dragonborn fighter of some kind? At this, Brimstone grins, his tail wagging. Iron Dragon Man, master like him, master fight with him. Zethian smiles at the confirmation. Do you know where he is now? Brimstone shrugs. Metal City, he replies vaguely, yawning. Fortunately, the clerics are more specific. They provide a last known address for Alexander Ironheart, promising to inform Lady Seraphina of the group's findings as soon as she returns. Before leaving, Talek pauses, a suspicion forming. He recalls that the card with Thurnos' address had been given to him by Penny, and the realization sends a chill down his spine. Wanting to confirm his hunch, he decides to revisit Edgar the Alchemist to discuss the mirrored necklace Penny had provided. The others agree to wait outside, killing time by playing cards on the street corner while Talek heads back inside with the necklace in hand, his mind racing with uneasy questions. Talek steps cautiously back into the alchemist's shop, the faint scent of sulfur and old parchment still lingering in the air. Edgar looks up from his workbench, his expression sharp and wild. His bloodshot eyes narrow, and his hand instinctively hovers near a pouch of tools. You again! Edgar snaps, his voice jittery. Why are you back? Is the other one with you? No, it's just me, Talek assures him, raising his hands in a gesture of peace. I wanted to ask for your expertise. You're clearly a brilliant mind, and I was hoping you could take a look at something for me. Edgar's suspicious gaze lingers for a moment before he waves Talek forward impatiently. Talek reaches into his satchel and carefully retrieves the necklace, presenting it to the alchemist. Edgar snatches it with surprisingly deft hands, holding it up to the dim light of the shop. He mutters, reaching for a magnifying lens. With meticulous care, Edgar examines the necklace, tilting it this way and that, inspecting every inch of its surface. Then he closes his eyes briefly, muttering an incantation to examine the item's magical properties. When he opens them again, his expression shifts to one of fascinated recognition. Ah, Edgar breathes. Oh, I see, very interesting. Yes, Algoseth's work, I'm certain of it. Talek's brows shoot up in surprise. Algoseth, as in the first creator of the Warforged. Edgar glances at him, his tone dripping with impatience. Yes, of course, who else? How common do you think the name Algoseth is? He shakes his head and returns his attention to the necklace, muttering under his breath. Unique, interesting, old strange enchantments. Talek leans in slightly. What kind of enchantments? Edgar sets down the lens and glares at Talek. I wouldn't wear it if I were you. It twists magic. Twists magic? How? Talek presses. Like chaos magic? No. Edgar explodes, gesturing wildly. Not chaos. Chaos magic is random. This isn't random. It's the inverse. Healing might harm. Fire might freeze. It reverses magic. Warps its purpose. Talek leans back, considering the implications of the alchemist's words. Could it be dangerous to keep it? Edgar shrugs, already engrossed in examining the necklace again. Dangerous to you, perhaps. Dangerous to others, possibly, but dangerous to me. He chuckles dryly. I'll be fine. Deciding to press further, Talek spends the next few minutes asking Edgar about the necklace's origins, his own background, and whether he's currently training any apprentices. Edgar reveals that he isn't taking on apprentices at the moment, claiming that most young minds are either too foolish or too devout. He also makes his disdain for the gods abundantly clear, muttering about their meddling and hypocrisy. Satisfied with the exchange for now, Talek agrees to leave the necklace with Edgar for further study. Let me know if you uncover anything else, he says, turning to leave. Edgar waves him off distractedly, already muttering to himself as he examines the strange artifact under a different light. Talek steps back out onto the street, the door shutting firmly behind him. The rest of the group looks up from their impromptu card game as he approaches, curious to hear what he's learned. The group meanders back through the bustling city streets, their sights set on the keg, hoping to find good food and even better booze. The air hums with the energy of the late afternoon, vendors hawking their wares and townsfolk bustling about their business. As they approach a lively intersection, they notice a crowd forming, voices buzzing with excitement. The group slows, curiosity getting the better of them, and they peer over the gathering heads. A massive sign looms above the crowd, emblazoned with the words, Shan Shara's Exotic Emporium. Above it, a magical moving billboard projects vivid, shifting images advertising the grand opening of Adventurers' Amusements. The group has seen posters for this event plastered across the city over the last few days, but the reality of it is even more extravagant. Should we check it out? Zethian asks, already edging toward the commotion. Of course we should. Saladin grins, his eyes lighting up. Anything with adventure in the title has to be good. Brimstone snorts, but follows as the group pushes through the throng. Navigating through the crowd, they finally enter the sprawling emporium. The interior is an overwhelming riot of color, sound, and movement, chaos incarnate. Shelves and displays stretch as far as the eye can see, filled with thousands of items from all corners of the world, and perhaps beyond. Magical weapons gleam on racks, potions bubble in crystalline vials, shimmering amulets and ornate trinkets hang on hooks. The hum of enchantments fills the air, blending with the chatter of shoppers and the occasional flash of magical demonstrations. Reminds me of the midnight market, Zethian mutters, scanning the room. Except this place is trying way too hard, Talek replies, shaking his head as a glowing staff spins mid-air on a stand. Ignoring most of the displays, the group weaves their way toward the back of the shop, where a glowing sign proclaims Adventurers' Amusements in bold, flickering letters. The area is cordoned off, creating a clear divide between the regular chaos of the Emporium and whatever this new attraction promises. A well-dressed employee steps forward to greet them, his polished smile as shiny as his gold-threaded vest. Ah, welcome, brave souls. Looking for a challenge? Want to be the very first to conquer the amusements? The group exchanges wary glances. What exactly are the amusements? Talek asks. Oh, a series of thrilling tests designed to entertain and challenge the most daring of adventurers, the man replies smoothly. And of course there's a prize for those who succeed. What kind of prize? Saladin presses, leaning in. The employee's smile doesn't falter. Ah, my friends, the prize is as grand as the challenge itself. But to keep the mystery alive, I'm afraid I can't reveal too much. Talek narrows his eyes. The posters say 75 gold. Up to, the employee says with an enigmatic chuckle. But I assure you it's worth your while. All you need to do is sign this. He produces a thick parchment and an elaborate quill. A simple waiver, standard stuff. Then the fun can begin. The group leans in to examine the parchment, the words written in neat, flowing script. There's no telling what they're about to step into, but the employee's grin only grows wider, as if he knows something they don't.
Adventurer Simons.
Sponsored by Sham, Shara's Emporium of Exotic Goods.